Alright, so is everybody on the call or are we missing anybody?
I think we're missing Maria and David.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. I think everybody else, the steering committee is all here, including Kayla and Spencer.
And Jose, it's your turn to take notes. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Alright, thank you.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, Maria's on. Is David on?
Yeah, staff already together.
So, okay, I think David said he's on. So...
I did. I want to give you a break from having to call me in for every freaking conference call.
All right, wonderful. So, we got a lot to discuss. Thanks, everybody, for being a little bit early. We appreciate it. Liz, working on muting you if you didn't already. All right, then don't worry. Sorry. No, it's fine. So, we were going to start with staff updates, go through a few different action items that Maria has brought to our attention in terms of Working Families Party actions coming up this month, Bernie's Day of Action, and we'll go into some other items. But anyway, let's just get started.
I think Maria requested that we don't do the staff updates first. Does that change?
Yeah, you guys might not be able to see the spread, the agenda. We still have one person on staff who's still in the office, although I don't think he's going to be here too much longer. So I think we should just do that agenda item a little bit later.
Okay, fine. So, in that case, the first item is the
inauguration.
Right. So it's David's added in here a draft email planned event. So I haven't seen it. So can you just give us a brief update?
Absolutely. So things are going along well. Knock on wood. When you guys have a chance, please check out the draft email. But I'll go over the event. So we've been reading. The inauguration committee has been meeting. Someone mute, please. The inauguration committee has been meeting very regularly. We've had some press interest or filmmaker interest from a German filmmaker and another guy from the Intercept that Sammy and I have to follow up with. The committee has done a very good job of volunteers, especially new volunteers, of providing us the work, getting things done on time. So just today, the housing email went out to both DSA activists and to the DSA both, and it was with a website that was designed by a former DNC staffer to this kind of like an Airbnb. So he was able to request housing and get housing. Ideally, it would have been better to get out earlier, but building an infrastructure for future events. And we have a list of events in this email that we'll send out shortly. It's going to be serious audience for everything. But so Thursday, there is going to be at 7 p.m. DSA will host a Welcome to the Tea Party at our guy's house. It'll be a way to RSVP with the staff and the exec. And then there's bus sessions. And on Friday, we'll be meeting at 10 a.m. at McPherson Square, and we'll see where to meet in the park. We've actually constructing 20, so we have to actually do a little bit more work with that, kind of, so for political reasons I can go into. And then there's the Young Chow Asian restaurant, Festival Place, Hunan Dynasty, in our stomachs and our hearts. So there. Then there's ways to go to the Jacobin anti-migration event at 8. A lot of people want to go to. Then there's information on where to join the Women's March on Saturday at what time, and then the directions for the Irish Pub on afterwards, and then there's an invitation for the Sunday members meeting for anyone who's just in town. There's anything else I'm missing. So once the email's out, hopefully, ideally do something, go out to the national list so people know where to meet us. But even if it's just the activists, it gives people a sense of what to do. I can see that Jared asked, should we I leave that up to the body. I think that the inauguration committee is doing a good job, and if we really want to drive people, yeah, and we go up some stuff, talk about the, make sure people get swag and then to talk more about at the local events, we speak from national, we speak from locally, just to make sure, there's some balance. But I think that the locals are doing good work, and I haven't been too involved, mostly just project managing and very little famous of doing the bulk of the work. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll cover some questions and discussions. I'm happy to start either, just whatever Jared wants.
So, that sounds great to me. I just, we talked last time about reaching out to Dustin to design signs for the inauguration. Is that happening? And what was the other thing? We wanted to also recruit people to write for, some first-person blog posts for this. I mean, that's not that big of a deal, but at least the sign stuff. And are these shirts going to be ready to go by the inauguration? Do we have a sense of that?
I have to reach out to Dustin about the designs. Was I supposed to?
No, you guys. So I can give you an update on design. So we're ready to order the t-shirts. In fact, I sent the info to Eileen today. So I think that we will have them in time, but let me just, actually let me ask you guys, David, should we get half of them sent to DC, or
Yeah.
when we order them? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that in the notes so I don't forget that. And then the second, okay, so the second thing is for the signs. So we didn't actually finalize, because we were triaging, what slogans to use to get printed on signs, but we did approve printing them. We just need to get the slogans to the designers so that decision has to be made. We could kind of go with what we have now, or we could, come up with something else. So we could do Fight for Democracy, Fight for Socialism, and then one that was Dump Trump, or we could do Fight for Democracy, Fight for Socialism, and then some other Trump thing, or we could do a feminist thing. I mean, I don't want to spend too long on this, but we hadn't really finalized that. So.
Why don't we just use what we have? I mean, unless anybody wants to come up with additional slogans, it seems like we should probably just get moving with saying design theme. I mean, do we really need a lot more variety? I mean, I don't really think. Yeah.
My only question.
Talk.
Sorry, my only question would be if we want something specifically feminist for the Women's March. I leave it up to Maria to decide, but that's probably do it. We think we're going to have it.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, we could say for social.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I don't know, unless somebody has a brilliant idea now, I don't want to use this call to decide that what slogan to use. But
right, no, I think we should.
Anybody have a brilliant idea?
No.
Social feminism, it's not great.
But we've used social feminist ones in the past, though. I don't remember what the slogans were, but I know we have some already that we've used for various events. I don't remember what they said, but I'm sure Dustin has those that we could.
I think there's Working Women of the World Unite or something. So I'll look them up and just tell the designers some of them.
All right. Okay. So, any other questions about the inauguration? Whose events are we actually going to? I mean, who's organizing the 20th event that we're actually going to?
The Disrupt J20, it's a coalition of
right. Okay. Got it.
I have a couple of quick questions. One is, at least in Philadelphia, because we didn't get out announcements. I mean, I tried to hold it back, but because we didn't get an announcement about what we're doing nationally, they're basically committed to doing local stuff. I mean, full enough. I guess New York is a question, but are between New York and Washington, do you think we'll have enough people to have a credible group, David? That's my only.
I mean, I think people are coming, and I just want to see the email people come.
Right. Right.
I don't think we need to kill ourselves just because one, I don't think we have the bandwidth, and two, I think that just the general zeitgeist is organizing for us anyway. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I care about this enough that I made sure it's getting done. So I'm not as worried about it as the Ryan Brothers thing.
Yeah.
I think it's good that we have something, and that'll be good
But-
when people show up.
Right. But the email you're talking about is an email blast to everybody, right? We are going to do
That's
that.
my hope. I mean,
No. Right. Okay. Well, if we do that, then I don't worry about it because people are planning to come along. The second thing is, I assume there will be non-CP alternatives in J20. In other words, J20 is obviously mostly a disruption, fine, but there will be people, and we should always think about class and racial stuff, who want to do CD. So we should just make sure they're alternatives, or the J20 is planning them. And then, the only other thing was, I don't know whether it's possible, but usually you get more visibility if you have signs on picket sticks, but I don't know if we can do that, but that's a minor thing. But I think we should be concerned that people have a choice whether they're interested or not.
Okay, so are there CD alternatives, David?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a march. I mean, people,
Right.
Trust Day 20 is also planning the TV stuff, but they're not involved in the point.
Okay. All right, we need to move on, but any other questions? Great, thanks for your work doing this, David. It's going to be nice. Any other questions?
I do, Maria, two questions.
Whoa, slow down.
David, did I send the t-shirts and signs to your office?
Yeah.
Okay, second question is, I agree with Joe, it would be great to get cardboard roll to staple signs to, but with the caveat that it's a lot of work to staple the signs to them, so it would take like a pretty huge work party, and I don't know if there's capacity for that. But on the other hand, you develop leaders, so I encourage you to look into that.
Yeah, it depends when we get the size. 12 people been showing up consistently to do this, and I'm sure we can get more people to come up because it's really more on the signs than I can get people to do it. But I think we need to move on.
Okay.
I just wanted to real quick question. Is it on the Jackson thing? I don't know who's organized whatever, but would it be possible to get Maria or somebody to speak briefly to PSA, or is it all superstars? In other words, is it all my own time?
I don't know anything about that program. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
I think Bob Star would be good.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, next thing is Working Families Party Trump appointment Tuesday action. Ray, can you just let us know what this is, and we'll take a vote on whether or not we can get involved in it?
Okay, guys, so I met with somebody at Working Families, Nalini Stamp. Her husband's a member of BSA, and she is kind of like an anarchist, lefty type. She's doing those Resist Tuesdays things you may have seen on social media, which is just like a toolkit urging people to be kind of like the Tea Party of the left on Tuesdays and push against Trump's appointment. And they have a few actions scheduled in a few specific states. So I thought, it might be worth reaching out to our chapters in those places specifically and asking if they want to join in. It's in January. It's like next Tuesday and the following Tuesday. And then also, the next 3 Tuesdays. Or next week, the 10th, 17th, and 24th. I think the one tomorrow is too soon. But the organized events are on the 10th in Reno, which I don't think we have anyone for. The 17th in Colorado and Denver and New York City, and then on the 24th, which is the second day in office of Trump and the first day of Congress, there will be a lot of local actions, although a lot of his cabinet picks will already be confirmed apparently right before the inauguration. So based on tasks, get timelines of cabinet approvals. So the targets are in Tennessee, Arizona, North Dakota, Alaska, Florida, and South Carolina, and as well as what I mentioned before, Colorado, and Nevada, and New York. Although the one in New York is at Goldman Sachs, not at a Senate office. They're planning a 3-day occupation of the lobby. So those are the states, and I thought that it might make sense for us to reach out to contacts in New York, Colorado, Tennessee, and Alaska. So we're trying to form a group. In Florida, we have a bunch of little grouplets. So I don't know. So just a thought. I wanted to find out if you guys are cool with that. I don't think we should have like a huge, long, drawn-out conversation about it, because I don't think that we should send an email blast about this per se, but just more like have PLDT contacts reach out and say, hey, here's a Resist Tuesday toolkit. You know, we believe that there might be people already organizing actions at these places. If there are, would you like to be connected? Or do you want to try to do your own thing using this toolkit? It could be a good test to see what people can pull together. They have all this energy, like could they pull something together in like 2 weeks? I feel like there is momentum for that, but I could see not doing it as well. Especially because the next agenda item is another action ask. So that's that.
Okay, so basically you're just saying we would have the PLDC inform these chapters that this is happening and direct them to the resource toolkit and encourage them to participate. To me, that seems like a good idea. It involves no resources, and you know, it's a good thing that these groups can get involved in. Seems simple, straightforward. But any thoughts?
Yeah, but only. Sorry.
Go ahead. Wait, who? I can't tell who this is.
It was Joe, and I think Liz was trying to get in, I think, or somebody else.
Peg says good idea.
Okay, Peg says good idea, Joe.
I think, yeah, it's Maria and PLDC call. I think one thing that would be interesting is if locals do get involved, it's good to get a sense of what Working Families has on the ground in these states and stuff. But that's both a question of what we can do, but also we want to get to know whether they're real outside of New York. So I think it's worth doing if locals will do it. If they won't, so be it.
Okay, any other thoughts? Yeah, so this is also a good way for us to get to know what Working Families is doing on the ground. So that's another good reason. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Okay, great. So Maria will reach out to the PLDC to let them know they should do this. The next thing is Bernie's January 15th day of action. Maria, you want to do the same kind of thing as we did for last one?
Sure. So you guys may have seen that Bernie is teaming up with the Democratic Party leadership to urge a day of action on January 15th around health care. And I think that it would be good for our chapters to try to get involved in that because I think the Bernie grassroots will be, and we can bring a socialist message. Again, it's one of those things where it's kind of a test to see if our people can organize with short notice, with a sense of urgency. So that's one thing. I think the potential downside is that it might make some people uncomfortable because it's endorsed by Bernie and the leadership of the Democratic Party. So it's like a protest action. And also, I don't know like what kind of grassroots response there will be. So you could make the argument, I don't agree with this argument, but people could make the argument that it's like working with the DNC as opposed to like an independent thing like People for Bernie or, whatever. So as far, I don't even know the details of this. I just happened to see January 15th, Day of Action around healthcare, and Bernie was promoting, and so I was like, oh, it's like the thing we could ask our people to do, and there has been requests for us to send out national action suggestions from the national office. So. And obviously healthcare is an issue that would be easy for us to use a socialist argument around.
There's somebody whose phone's not muted and it's a little bit disruptive, so if you could mute, that'd be great.
Peg on stack.
Thanks.
So it seems to me this makes a lot of sense. If, this is a single payer argument. If people don't want to work with the DNC, and making a single payer argument on our part, then it's too bad. But I don't see this as a betrayal of our politics.
Other thoughts?
I think we should just make
David,
David, then Joe?
Yeah, I mean, we should push both single payer, but also I think we should say.
No, I said David, then Joe.
Oh,
I just said that I agree with Ted, but Joe can go ahead.
Okay, go, Joe.
yeah, I think as long as we push that public option single payer, but also I think it is important that we'll make clear that we're not working with the DNC, we're working with Bernie, but that we're also staking out, we should stake out a position that no one, we are defending Medicaid expansion, and no one should be thrown off of Obamacare as inadequate as it is. So I think, I think it'd be easy to get out the right line, but make it clear that this is a mass mobilization, that the Bernie wing of the party is involved too, but the Bernie wing has different views than the DNC. And just make that clear.
agree.
This is Jared. I personally think we should just do this through the PLDC, and I definitely think we should do it, but not send out a mass email to all the leadership and the activist list, because even though I agree with what Maria's saying about this not being a betrayal of our politics or whatever else, it is going to be something that will create unnecessary bullshit from people, some people, if we make this into like a very visible DSA thing. I think it's just better to say, let's have our PLDC contact, get out the word directly to our chapter leaders about this and try to encourage them to participate as chapters rather than to send out some big mass email about it.
That's fine with me. I don't think we want to send out too many big mass emails. And focusing on the inauguration, the Women's March makes sense to me.
Right. Other thoughts? Any other thoughts on this? Now, all right, so if we're going to do this, though, we probably want to have... Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. So we want to have a couple of, what do you call them, placards that people can use on the 15th. So, somebody, Maria, can you, or would you like one of us to just email Dustin and say, can you put together a couple? I think we already have single payer signs. Actually, maybe we can just forward this to you. Who's that?
Yeah, I can just reach out to the design guys.
All right.
We
Yeah,
probably do have
but
to
we don't need to. We don't need to make new ones. I'm pretty sure we already have them. Liz
Yeah.
says we definitely do. Okay, great. So, any other thoughts on that for everyone? All right, there's a lot of background noise, but whatever. Okay, so the next thing is the YDS conference. So I understand that David has confirmed with the folks at, I always forget the name of the place, Mayday? No,
Mayday.
What's it called? Mayday, that we could get additional space, and that you have a request that we, maybe use that additional space for active training. So can you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. It's not really much more than that. I have. Are any of the YDSers on the call, by the way?
Yeah, I'm on the call.
Hey, Kayla, great. So Kayla
Okay.
can fill in if there's anything I missed. So basically, we have 11 or so workshops that we've been filling in for speakers. We can get the build room, so for people who are there, that's the first floor room where we have the opening night event. We don't need to do the opening night event there, thank God again, upstairs. But make a long story short, we can do some workshops, so I was kind of thinking that we could do, I know that the steering committee is wanting to, is Christmas, and I agree to have some more activist-oriented workshops. So we are having a call on Thursday, and I can bring this up. I don't know how Chris McDonald is going to take it. I know he wants to push a couple more workshops, the workshops he had that were voted on, such as like privilege politics, where he already had gotten speakers to commit to it. Um, and so I guess the long story is that, there's a lot of stakeholders in this, and it's kind of been stressing me out to balance people's different interests and make sure that the process is actually democratic. So the simple question on the floor is really, let's say we have 3 more spots to fill. How do we balance filling it with workshops that were proposed? That includes some activist training, but the workshops that we may think of more important, such as the bystander training and things like that. So, part of me thinks of I should just kind of go in and what Taylor says, let's go in and be hey, the steering committee thinks but given the time, we should have more someone active training and kind of which I think the majority of that committee will go for, but I don't want to just do it like that either. So that's kind of what the issue is at hand. Taylor, is there anything you'd like to add?
Basically, my whole thing is, with YDS, we typically have more, of the new people coming in to, find out what YDS is about. So, while I agree that we need trainings for, some of our older members who maybe been here a year or two and could actually benefit from those trainings, my fear is that, the current YDSers who are here and who have been for a year or two that would benefit from those, they also need to be leading workshops. So I'm, concerned on, who's going to be leading those workshops. I can speak to that. This is Maria. Okay. So, there are some people in New York DSA that told me that they're not YDSers, but they're union organizers, and they said that they want to do a training in New York City DSA on organizing, a half-day training sometime in the spring. And I think that there would be a lot of people we could pull upon that are actually full-time professional organizers and young who could lead skills trainings. And so if that's the concern, I think that would solve that problem. And I feel very, very strongly that there are a lot of really enthusiastic people that want to do something to fight Trump and or are very afraid and they don't know how to organize. So I feel like we have a lot of workshops about socialist ideas and very few about how to actually enact those ideas in building a socialist movement. And I just think that if we can do workshops where we have a long-time YDS are paired with a professional organizer on choices, skills that we've identified, I think a bystander intervention would be good. I think it would actually really help YDS become more effective in the future and really grow in this period when people are looking for organizations that not only have a plan but are actually effectively carrying it out and building capacity. So. Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. My biggest fear was that, I wouldn't want the workshops that would train people into becoming, organizers or better organizers and better activists to overshadow some of the more ideological training. Because for a second there, the way it was kind of David was talking about it, it felt like it was going to wind up being more of a DSA conference and less of a YDS conference. Because I know when I've gone to other conferences before, not saying that we've had, more trainings before, but when it was, the DSA people were more, the ones that were organizing it and stuff, the YDSers, especially on the CC, kind of felt left out. So my thing is kind of like David said, to do this all very democratically and make sure every one feels included and every voice feels included. So that's the only fear I would have. As long as we had 50-50 of each, then that's fine. Does that make sense?
Okay,
Question
David.
for you though, Kayla. What do you mean by DSA to YDS, first YDS conference? That's not very clear to me.
Because when we've had older, well, I guess they're not older YDS members, or maybe they are, I don't know. So we've had people from DSA come in, and then they were kind of the ones running the conference. and it wasn't so much the YDS people. And that's how I felt like when it was like, oh, let's do these training and activist meetings. I completely get the benefit of it. But I'm saying, like, that idea should have really come from the CC if it's going to be a YDS conference. And then we also need to include the YDSers who are great organizers and who are, like, very proactive in their community and being activists and stuff. We need to include them in these trainings as well. And my fear is, like, their time will be split. Like, if they're, like, in, like, an ideological training or, like, court forum that's going on with these trainings, then they wouldn't be able to do both. Did I just, like, confuse everybody? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't confuse us.
Okay.
David, I don't know if you want to respond to that. We only have a couple of minutes left. I don't.
No, I think we'll hash this out on Thursday call.
Yeah.
David, did we set a time for that Thursday call?
Yeah, it was 9.
When did you set it? I don't.
9.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, 9. Okay, maybe we did already. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, and I would just add that, you know, of course, YDS should take the lead, you know, as, you know, they've, as far as I can tell, normally done in the past. But I completely agree with Maria that, you know, there's going to be so many new people. I mean, we're seeing this in all the chapters that I've talked to, which is a lot in the last month. You know, so many people just want to get basic organizing skills about how they can fight back against Trump. And there's never been a time when having organizing training was more important at a YDS conference than this year. So, you know, you guys should do what you want, but, like, you know, it would be a mistake, I think, if you didn't do these organized trainings. But, of course, you know, it's not up to me.
No, I'm saying we do need to do the trainings. I'm not saying that the trainings aren't important. I'm just saying we need to get the YDSers who already know how to organize and stuff involved in those trainings as well. So if we have somebody who's like a union member or somebody like who's like super important and who already knows how to do this, to get them in there, but to also have like a YDSer or two in there with them to kind of explain, well, yeah, this is how we do this through YDS.
I think that was pretty much Maria's proposal, and that would be really great to have, you know, pair people up. Right, exactly.
Yeah, I think we've reached a consensus. I think we're good.
I think they should be all organizing training, but I'll leave that up to you guys to decide.
Well, I don't think you fully think that, and that Taylor's concerned that people be introduced to our politics is important, but honestly, yeah, it makes sense that half.
Well, I'm saying if you look at the current lineup, it's mostly theories, so.
No, I agree.
I think people are maybe that's what you meant, Kayla. I just feel really strongly about this.
I agree with you. I agree. Stop. Okay, great. So you guys will talk about this on your Thursday call. David, you know, let us know if there's any other input you need from us on this, and we'll be happy to give it. Next thing is the NCC agenda. There's a link to the agenda here on this agenda. And I sent out the agenda last week. So basically, you know, this could be really short if nobody has any input. I'm just curious if there are things you find to be missing on the agenda, if there are things you want to add, if there are, you know, whatever changes you'd like to make. Just and then I also want to ask people if anybody is thinking about writing a proposal. So it's basically going to be the same kind of thing as last time with those, you know, pretty, you know, thorough proposals that, you know, that we talked about and used as the sort of basis of our conversation. Maria's writing a proposal. I'm writing one. We may combine them somewhat. We're not sure. Joe's given some input into the one that I'm writing. And I don't know of anybody else that's going to be writing anything. But
I'm writing something too.
Okay, great. So David will be writing something. If anybody else is, then, or if you know of anybody else who is, let me know. And also, you know, any input about the agenda would be helpful. I'll just flag one thing that might be controversial, which is that I'm proposing that on Saturday night, we actually, at least for an hour and a half, we actually continue talking about our strategic orientation in a pretty formal way, because I'm concerned that we don't have enough time in the agenda to we definitely don't have enough time to get through everything, but I think if we allow for that hour and a half extra in the evening, we're not going to go to Keen's house. Keen's house got burned, unfortunately, which is very sad. But she's okay. And so we will be going to the Irish restaurant downstairs. It's not ideal, but it's close and it's quiet. And so we'll do that.
A further one away, but that has a private room. That's quiet.
Oh, I'm sorry. A further one away.
We just have like Irish pubs all over this neighborhood, so.
Right, I know.
Danny Boy.
Oh, Danny Boy will be singing, right. So, so I want to actually continue basically going through, the agenda, at least for an hour and a half. We can still, have time to discuss informally, whatever, like after that, but for like say 7 to 8 or 7 to 8:30, or maybe even earlier since we don't have to walk all the way over there. I think it would be good to actually spend more time on this hashing out of the strategic orientation. So that's it. Any comments, thoughts? I'm happy to, incorporate people's ideas into the agenda if you haven't.
David wants to be on tech.
David.
Yeah, me too. That's true.
This is rather quick. I was wondering, most of my report, I guess the work I've been doing is on the convention, though I have some general ideas of other projects that aren't really in my proposal I should be working on. So I guess I'm just thinking, what would you guys think I'd be talking about in the deputy director's report, since it's mostly the white? Since I'm not talking about the YDS or the convention too much in there. Would it just be like reviewing electoral work, reviewing the inauguration? I just want to prepare my report for the next tomorrow, and I just want to know what I should be writing about.
Well, I mean, given that you're probably going to be the person most closely associated with like this electoral working group that we've been talking about getting off the ground, maybe you'd want to talk about that.
That was the main thing. Anything else you were thinking of?
Not me. I don't know if anybody else has other thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about volunteer projects. I mean, those things I'll report. I just wondering if there's anything that people should want me to prioritize. So that's kind of my general question.
I mean, if you want to talk a little bit about, you're pretty closely in touch with some of these folks from the other activist networks that, like the People Summit and What's Next and all that.
Yeah.
If you wanted to comment on, your impressions of those groups and, whether or not you think they should be involved. Like, I think most people on the MPC don't have any idea, like, what's going on with all that, except they read it in the notes, maybe, of steering committee meetings, but that might be helpful. I don't know if others have other thoughts. Okay. Then, Joe,
people can email me if they do later. Thanks, Gary. Very helpful.
Yeah. Joe? You there, Joe? Okay. I guess we lost. Oh. I guess we lost Joe. Hopefully he'll be back soon. Any other thoughts on the agenda?
Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I must have been on mute or something. One is it worth, we've had a lot of strategic discussion at the steering committee, but the MPC wasn't really involved. I guess it'll come out. I mean, my one concern is that, and I think the item about sort of looking back at Reagan may cover it, but we do face this tricky thing that we're not talking about that much. One, this huge influx of people and how do we handle it, but also that in some ways we're going to be doing more broad coalition defensive work, and exactly how we do this sort of uniquely social stuff is going to be trickier until maybe the 2018 elections or in certain blue cities and blue states there's more room. But, I think how we I think Marie is right. There's a lot of energy to do anti-Trump stuff, but anti-Trump stuff is pretty broad, so eventually it does raise the question of sort of why are we a socialist organization? So I just think that may come through the proposals, that may come through the sort of hour on looking back at previous periods, but I think Trump's pretty unique and pretty difficult for us in some ways. You know, so I don't know where we exactly discuss that. But
I mean,
that's what
I think, I mean, that's definitely something that's explicitly raised in my proposal about, you know, the importance of thinking about ways to do offensive and defensive, you know, work at the same time. So, you know, I think that it'll probably go. If you think we should have a specific amount of time dedicated just to, you know, going into that in even more way, what would you propose?
Well, yeah, I guess there are two questions, and I agree that MPC discussions that aren't here to actual tasks aren't necessarily that productive. But there is this huge question, which I don't know if the MPC is the best way to deal with it, but we're all dealing with this. How do we incorporate all these people, and what does it mean?
Right, well, I think that's part of the proposal that Marie and I are coming up with.
Okay,
sure.
well, then that's fine, because I think that's a huge challenge. The other thing is, maybe it's best to just leave it to the steering committee and the May meeting, but in a certain sense, I'm struck by, in some ways, we're talking more about the convention and how to handle it and have a good convention. Maybe now, because May is pretty late. So, on the other hand, this agenda is so packed now, what we should do is get agreement of the steering committee involved in that as planning. Challenges posed by the convention with all these members. So I'm just asking for sort of guidance on that.
This is Peg on Stack. Can you hear me on Stack?
Yes.
I got kicked off the call, sorry. I missed a little bit of what you said. So.
Peg's trying to go.
Hey.
So I think the points that Joe raises are very important points. I mean, the whole organization is trying to PLDC, all our chapters are trying to figure out how to bring in and absorb these new people. So we definitely have to think about that in terms of convention. I have, for the agenda for the NPC meeting, two not major things, but I need to know who will advise me on what to do about them. One is connected to a major thing, and that's the security question. I mentioned I did a FYI about archives and are having an archivist putting together our records so we actually know what we decided. So when people start claiming we decided something else, we can rebut them. But I do think we need to have a plan to deal with security, get everybody on Signal or something like that at the very least. Because the more powerful we are, the more shit we're going to get, and the more exposed we're going to get. And then secondly, somebody needs to tell me who will make a decision about this historians group that I can convey to the guy who wants to organize it. And I got some information about him that I will share with whoever I should share it with.
So Peg, on your point about, is that a response to Peg or just something else?
One of the items.
All right, go ahead.
So the tech proposed committee came up with a whole proposal about security. So that will be part of, I think, a proposal that Hope is working on for the MPC for a new formal committee. But the other things, I do not have as easy of a solution.
All right, so I mean that's a good place to start is with this security, this proposal from the tech group, and then for the historians group, Peg, you sent something out. I know I didn't respond to you. It got lost in the shuffle. Why don't we just? I mean, I don't think we need to bring that to the MPC. Why don't we just talk about it? Either just send it out again and we can vote over email, or if not, then remind me and I can put it on the steering committee call.
I'd like to put it on the steering committee call because I think it raises a more general question about Maria mentioned when she responded to it when I initially set it out, which is this balance between rewarding people with initiative on the one hand, and on the other hand, not having people just going off in our name and doing whatever the fuck they want to do.
Right.
So let's,
Okay.
can we put it on a future steering committee?
Yes. Okay, any other thoughts? We need to move on, but any other thoughts about the agenda for the MPC? Agenda for MPC. Okay, and nobody else on this call is going to be writing a proposal besides David and Maria. Okay, that's fine. Yes, Peg, we hope you feel better. Maria put the notes here. The next thing is convention planning. David, if you're not prepared to, or if you want to postpone this, that's fine. But we did say on the last call that we were going to talk about the list of names for the committees that would be for the convention. So I'm ready to go ahead and talk about at least. You said you were going to give us like an actual roster of who you think should be on the advisory committee.
Didn't I provide that in that email, like that everyone had it to? We can go over those.
Yeah, but that's way more people than could actually be on the committee.
Well, I think you're asking a different question. You're asking, do you want to triage? You want me to ask like who I think should be the first people to get asked? Hello?
Sorry, I thought the idea. Sorry, go ahead, Maria.
Actually, I don't remember exactly. I thought that David was just going to go with, choosing who to ask these, but I have a terrible memory, so I could be wrong. So go ahead, Jared.
So my understanding was, and maybe I just misunderstood. Certainly for the program committee, we need to whittle down and actually talk about specific names and come up with a committee. My understanding, was that for the advisory committee, you were gonna give us a list of people that you wanted that you were hoping would be on the committee, and then if they couldn't make it, then we could go to some of these alternates. But I guess your thinking was that this was just you were just gonna go with whomever you wanted on this like much longer list.
Yeah, I think what we were going to do, me and Maria still haven't met to discuss who we're going to invite for the advisory. So.
Okay, all right. So when you do, give us a proposal so we can look at it.
For the advisory committee? I thought the whole point was you guys would basically decide the program committee, but the advisory committee would just go with it so there wasn't a bottleneck.
Right, but we talked about you're gonna choose who's gonna be on it, but just before reaching out to people, just let us see the list so we can know who's gonna be on it. That's all. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. That's great.
It's not. It's pretty simple. Is that bad? That seems. I didn't know.
That's totally fine.
I think that it's. Okay. Whatever.
Well, I don't know why that's problematic. Then to say I don't know why it is.
I personally think that that's an example of the kind of bottleneck that's at this point, we have a list and we have a committee that's much more intimately involved, and you guys are going to help formulate that committee, and then we have this advisory committee. It's I just feel like it's having vote after vote, approval after approval. It's just, I don't know. But I'm willing to concede on this, but we have
I guess
so
my
much
feeling is
going
it's a
on.
very.
I feel like we need to move on.
Right. I guess I was just thinking, if we are the steering committee of the organization, we should at least see the list of names which you're choosing, and that's all. But and it doesn't take any time at all, except for quick email, and we can say, yeah, that looks good. But with respect to the program committee, there's a lot of.
Do we want to start looking at that list now, though? And
well, that was the question. That's what we talked about doing on the last call. If you think it would be better to to postpone this, we can. Just let me know what you think.
I mean, I kind of kicked that to the group. Like, I'm happy to spend time right now going home because I can easily go into the Google Doc, filter it out, just those program people, then read it off to people who aren't in front of the computer. But next, let me just see the agenda. But we still need to discuss the internal thing. So, what I will suggest, Jared, I suggest maybe we hold off on the convention for now. Usually I'll ask you agenda items, and if there's time, we'll talk about the convention for those who want to stay on.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
no, it's Joe. I just was dropped for about 6 minutes, so just let me know where we are. That's all.
We were just talking about the names for the convention. All right, so David, you're proposing we talk about this at the end of the call. If we have time.
Yeah, if there's time.
If we don't have time, then we can, talk about it next time.
Then what I'll do is I'll send out an email tomorrow morning to the steering committee with the people who have been suggested for the program, and we can kind of have a general discussion on the email. Like, that's not a binding discussion, but just what people
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Great. So the last thing here.
This is Peg. I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
So, I'm sick, so I may not have paid attention. I thought that we were going to okay the program committee and hold off on the advisory committee. Is that not what we did?
So it's the opposite. The opposite.
Yeah, it's the opposite of that. Because we are choosing the program committee, the steering committee, or helping with staff. And staff is choosing the advisory committee.
Okay, that is fine. Sorry, I thought that was what I said. That's how confused I am. Okay.
Oh, I see.
I support that idea. So, but what does this complicate things in terms of David being able to make progress? Then is our next steering committee call where he can't do anything until we have a decision. I assume we're not meeting the night, the day after the NPC.
Right, so 2 weeks from today then.
So is that a problem?
Is that a problem, David?
No, what I think.
Go ahead.
I don't. For the advisory, it's not, because the advisory, we're not move ahead. I think for the program, I don't think 2 weeks maybe will kill us, but we're getting into dangerous territory. I definitely think we should start. I definitely think at least we should have an online discussion. And then maybe we'll do a poll or something to at least narrow people down. People can pick who would be their top priorities to add in a non-binding way and just kind of move forward. And I think we can probably reach some resolution. So I think we all want the best for the organization. So it's not it's more just finding a good balance. And then also the truth is people will say no. So it's not out of our.
Wouldn't one way of moving this forward quickly be if? Well, I assume Bria and David are going to come forth with an advisory recommendation, which I don't think is going to be very controversial, and then we should probably add 1 or 2 steering committee people on that. But then for programs, would it make some sense for Jared to talk with David and Maria, come up with some sort of slate, and then see?
Yeah, that sounds good.
The program committee from the steering committee might want to be on, because obviously that's the most important committee, and then maybe the steering committee people who want to be on it. But that's one way to move forward. If somebody's got to come up with a slate, I'm fine with Jared, the steering committee voice with the political staff, coming up with maybe the recommendations for the steering committee people or something.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Go ahead, David.
I'm pretty. I'd like to hear what Maria says, but I'm kind of favorable to that. If we just want to do a call this week to kind of hash out like a top tier, second tier list.
All right, that's fine with me.
Hang on, Stack.
Peg.
So my point is just that email discussions of people are not necessarily the best way to have discussions of people, nor are they the most efficient way. So, I would prefer something where we have a conversation where people can say the things that are the hardest things to say by email. And the most important things to say.
Okay, but what about Joe's proposal of Maria and David and I can talk about it this week, and then we'll send out a list of recommendations so that we don't have to go over the entire list by email.
And that's fine with me as long as if anybody wants to flag something, we have a mechanism. But not have to say by email their reservations.
Yeah. We could have a brief call to finalize the list and finalize the SC people, but it seems to me that if staff and Gary come up with a slate, that shortens the length of the call.
Agree.
Okay, so any objections to this? Okay, great.
I can only do this if we do it during either David and my regularly scheduled check-in or Jared and my regularly scheduled check-in.
Okay.
There's just way too much other work that is weighing down all of us. But
I agree.
And so I'm happy to do it during either, Maria. So you pick whatever best for you, and I will prepare stuff to make the call easier, so we're not just doing it, out of the blue.
Okay, so Maria will let us know what works best. Sure one. Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay, great. So finally, just a little bit of discussion here about a couple things. Oh, wait, who was that? Oh, whatever. About a couple of things. Oh, there's a lot of background noise. Okay. So related to basically internal cohesion in DSA. Now, one is the proposal for internal debate that I sent out earlier. We're not going to be able to make a final vote on this because there's a lot of editing. Even if we liked the idea, there's a lot of editing to be done, and it's definitely, as you can see from Maria's comments, too ambitious. But I did want to get your sort of basic thoughts on, whether or not this seems like a good idea, and if it does, give constructive criticism, feedback, and then I can hone it and make it a little bit more realistic, perhaps, given our constraints of resources. But before that, I just wanted to talk for a little bit about we haven't really explicitly talked about an issue that I think is pretty serious. And I think we need to start talking about a little bit. So I'll just introduce it, and then we can sort of, have a little bit of discussion, and then, perhaps talk about it more at the MPC and going forward. But, basically, I'm concerned that we have sort of a rift that we have all these new people. That's one issue, how to onboard them. But then we have another issue, which is partly related to new people, but it's also just a general issue of having, a huge range of perspectives ideologically in the organization, and people with those very different perspectives sometimes not really relating to each other or sort of talking past each other. And, the way this is manifest right now is that we basically have, a left caucus, which has a certain set of perspectives, and there are some people in the organization, perhaps a lot of people in the organization, we don't really know, who are concerned about the left caucus, and they think that, having caucuses is a problem, and that we need to be careful to have, to sort of minimize the extent to which caucuses exist because they can be, problematic for creating division within the organization. And there's other people that, maybe are just confused by, what the caucus is, and we don't have any alternative pockets that exist. We did for a